Hi again, I'm Dr. Peter Welgan. For those of you who are just joining us again, as I said before, I am a clinical psychologist, a research psychologist, psychophysiologist, and the director of the Welgan Center for Behavioral Medicine. And we are in the middle of a lecture series that will span perhaps a good part of this year. The topic currently here is biofeedback. By the way, for those of you, again, who are just joining us, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about what we've been discussing here over the past several sessions, you might want to go to my website, the Welgan Center for Behavioral Medicine, and you're going to see a calendar. And on that calendar, you'll notice archived videos of earlier lectures. If you want to try to catch up or just pick a lecture or two that seem to be interesting for you, just go ahead and click on it, okay? We're archiving everything, so if you missed something here, it's available over there, okay? Also, there's another calendar you'll notice, and it will post all of my presentations, my lectures, for a month. And you will end the dates, okay? So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what's going on down the line here, just take a look at that other calendar. Okay, going back to my presentation, I want you to mention, remember, I'm not in a laboratory, and there ain't a bunch of books around, and I am actually in my office, okay? And the disadvantage of that is, for you, is that this ain't high-tech stuff. I don't want it to be, and I've spent a lot of time in the classroom writing stuff on chalkboards here, and unfortunately, you get stuck with that. And sometimes I actually write things on that board that I think you may have trouble understanding or reading. In fact, sometimes when I write it, I don't even know what I wrote. So my penmanship is lousy. And you think mine's bad? Check your doctor's when he writes your prescription. You can't read either one. However, if you are trying to figure out what I've written on the board here, email me. pt.3 as in dog at cox.net and say, what is that on that board over there? I can't read it. And I'll get back to you. Okay. Anyway, let's try. We'll struggle with my penmanship, okay? Anyway, I hope you can read that. I put that on the board just a little earlier. It says biofeedback. This is the second lecture of biofeedback, and I mentioned to you that there will be one more, okay? Now, for those who want to know a little bit more about biofeedback history and all that stuff, just go back to my last lecture here, okay? Because this time what I'm going to be talking to you about is why that has become so interesting for a lot of us in this field, okay? As a clinician who actually works with all kinds of theories of psychopathology, mental illness, psychosexual development, psychiatric theories. Geez, you know, after a while, you know, you really get a good sense of the different orientations theoreticians and practitioners take to understanding the nature of a particular condition, mental health condition, okay? And if you're around long enough and you're trained long enough, you really understand pretty much a lot of it, okay? Now, and as a clinician, you know, trained broadly, call me something of an eclectic, if you will, but I've always been drawn to a special field of behaviorism, behaviorism. behaviorism. And that is the study of a behavior and an understanding of how behavior is acquired, how it maintains, and how it sort of just disappears out of your behavioral repertoire at times. Some behaviors just drop out and you don't perform those behaviors anymore. Others stay with you for long periods of time. Some behavioral patterns stay with you the rest of your life. And as a learning theorist, and that is my field, and that is how we learn how to behave. Okay? How do we learn how to behave? Whether you're using that theoretical model over there, or that a psychoanalytic model over here, or whatever it is, we're all dealing with the same data, behavior. And for those of us who are really interested in how behavior is learned, you have to turn to experimental labs, okay, for a very clear understanding, empirically. Show me how that is actually occurring. You have to go into scientific laboratories. And in order to demonstrate the acquisition of behavior, whether it is pathological or, quote, normal, take a look at the people who spent their careers, their lives, modifying, acquiring, conditioning, acquiring behavior, changing behavior, manipulating behavior, generally in laboratory animals. But many of those animals, most of them, all of them, learn the same way we do. And that is the principles underlying the development and acquisition of habit patterns, conditioned behavioral patterns that maintain as a habit, actually follow very specific scientific principles and laws. Really? Yeah. So I came out of experimental laboratories and studying how you can actually train an organ system, an organism to change behavior, whatever the species of that animal is really very interesting. How you can actually manipulate, experimentally, change behavior in one direction, and then if you want to try to reverse that behavior, you do this, this, and this. That kind of control over behavior is a very strong argument for science. And that's what is required of physics and all physical sciences. If it's going to become a science in the true sense and has to meet the requirements of six conditions that I can count. There may be more, but I think 6 before it can be determined to be of hard science. Science. Behaviorism, in my experience, is the only theory about human behavior that meets all the requirements of a discipline like physics. The rest of the theories out there, I do not consider to be hard sciences, okay? Although they're rather exquisite and eloquent in their delivery by the theoreticians. I'm always interested as a scientist to show me how you can actually control and manipulate behavior like any other phenomenon in the real world that you're trying to control. Behaviorism, following the laws and principles of learning theory, actually accomplish that, in my opinion. In fact, anybody who wants to go back there and check my thoughts on that, go ahead and do that. Okay, so it brought me into the field. We're actually looking at a therapeutic method here that actually is probably the most scientifically based of all theories. So, if it's scientifically based, that means perhaps we can train one another to produce the same effect on that phenomenon. That's what's nice about science. It's public. You do this, this, and this happens. And if you do this and this happens. You want to try it? You know, that's what's called you run a study and see if you can confirm what I've just accomplished. Okay? And anybody else? Well, you'll notice that a lot of information that is entering the literature and newspapers has to be confirmed not just by 10, 20, 30 investigators, but often hundreds before everybody can kind of say, yep, that's what's happening, okay? Well, this comes closest to that kind of community effort, scientific effort, okay? Being able to actually produce similar and reliable results by a wide range of investigators. Well, now that I bored the heck out of you, as those who could give a darn about that, but there are those of us who really feel that if you're going to actually adopt something here, you better be pretty darn sure, as a scientist, researcher, that I'm really dealing with something potentially powerful. Okay, so behaviorism, behavior modification, which really is a manifestation of the rules and principles of learning when they are applied properly. A very powerful set of tools. Okay, well, with that in mind, my time is somewhat limited in each one of these sessions. So what I would like to do in introducing the value of biofeedback, the value is in the underlying level, and that is of treatment, and that is behavior modification and behaviorism. Okay, now tune in with me tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about some of the clinical problems that a wide number of us around the world have attempted to address since the early 70s. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.